Okay, so 2018, how was it for you?
Well, it's been a year of progress, and pretty proud of all the state employees that had either a small hand or a big hand at times in helping improve people's lives and helping them find the resources to do so. So I'm bullish about 2019 because of the year, all the foundation that's been set for years and years and years. But this was a banner year in terms of our growing economy. I said at the State of the State address that we were seeking to break the record that we just set in 2017, and just earlier this week announced that we had done that. We had set the new record. Obviously our tech community is blossoming, continues to do so. When you get the biggest single jobs announcement with emphasis and 3,000 jobs, and they're growing our talent pool here and attracting more people in from out of the state. Our wages are going up, the housing market's hot, building permits are surging all over the state of Indiana, so it's not just a pocket that's thriving. This is proof that it's working and people are noticing the state of Indiana. And then, you know, obviously our infrastructure, we're connecting with each other and with the world in ways like never before, and continue to make more connections, whether it's the standard, you know, roads, both state and local improvements, accelerating transformational regional projects, rail. We're looking at some significant rail projects, especially up in Northwest Indiana, that again is all about ease of travel and recruitment of talent. Both airport and waterport improvements and expansion. Obviously with our first transatlantic flight ever in the history of our state, direct nonstop to Paris, that has opened a lot of eyes, not just around Indiana travelers, but also businesses and carriers, that Indiana's become a hub in many respects, but also in this area. Obviously convention and tourism, breaking records, not just here in the capital city, but in other parts of the state as well. Having the FFA, the National FFA Convention, extend their obligation or their contract with Indiana through 2031. I don't know where you're going to be in 13 years, but FFA will be here. That's a huge validation of, because we were competing against Atlanta. We were competing against other states, and to lock something of that significance that's right down our strike zone is another validation. Workforce development efforts were being noticed all around the country. We just had 2 big bus loads of folks from a couple days ago from Wisconsin and Florida that came in here, wanted to meet, wanted to talk to folks that have been part of this change, this whole effort to address lifelong learning from the very beginning to happy retirement, quite frankly. And if someone, a Hoosier, wants to either skill up or pursue a different career, we got a program for you that can help you do just that. So there's so many areas where we measure ourselves. I laid out a whole long list of areas that I said we need to improve in January at the State of the State address. And I'm bullish about where we're going to end up at the end of the year, and then our strong start to 2019.
What are you most proud of for 2018?
Yeah, I think it's been our aspirational approach as a team. And I mean not just state employees, I mean our aspirational approach and partnerships. I was in Gary, Indiana yesterday for 2 big announcements. And we were both commenting on the partnership that has developed between the state and the local communities. And you can literally go around the whole state of Indiana, whether it's got to do with the private sector, the business community, different industries that are growing, being part of this process to raise our game and to address the challenges that we face, whether it be with making sure people can find the road to recovery and then help them stay on the road to recovery, or grow their business here, improve the quality of life and quality of place and space. This is a huge factor in folks deciding where they want to live. And so working on those efforts together, that's what I'm most proud of. We're really moving forward because we've been focused on strengthening our economy, strengthening our workforce, strengthening our infrastructure, delivering good government at a great value, and it's paying dividends to real people. We've been focused on people, but together.
We've had some speed bumps this year.
Yeah.
I want to go back earlier this year, the Curtis Hill situation.
You want to put it in reverse and go back? I want to go forward. No. Yeah.
The Curtis Hill situation, that took months.
Yeah.
It was a long road. You had called for him to resign.
Yeah.
So did Speaker Bosma. The victims had called for him to resign. They wanted him to be impeached. He said he denies all the allegations. He said he's not going anywhere. He's still in office right down the hall. The recent reports, the big state investigations found he was didn't do anything criminally and found no evidence. He's still in office. What do you make of the whole Curtis Hill situation, where things stand now?
Well, I should just say at the very outset, it's my position on this hasn't changed one iota, and I'd be a hypocrite if I did change my position. I stood in this office about 4 feet away from where we are right now during the legislative session back in March with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Loretta Rush, and we both said that we had a zero tolerance for sexual harassment, and zero means zero, and in fact, I believe personally that elected officials, especially statewide elected officials like myself, need to be held to a higher standard, not a lower standard than which we hold our employees to. And so for that very reason, after reading the first investigation and then the second and then the third, I did believe that their line was crossed and that the right thing to do would be to resign. My position, again, has not changed one iota. Obviously, with the civil case that's pending right now, that's his business, not mine. I'm going to continue to focus on my job and make sure that we continue to do a good job that we just talked about.
School safety, it's one of your pillars.
Yes.
Really important to pretty much
Everyone.
lawmaker in the State House.
And every Hoosier.
Back to metal detectors, free detectors to dozens of schools across the state, thousands of
Plus 97% of them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How many are left?
We'll make sure there's about 3% that haven't taken us up on the offer right now.
Of schools?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's still some left over.
If those 3% want to come forward, I want to help them.
Okay. We learned there's a lot of schools that are actually not using those detectors.
Yeah.
What do you make of that and why?
Well, this is the balance on multiple fronts with the state of Indiana. We, as a state, are committing north of 50% of our budget to K through 12 education. That involves, obviously, not just instruction and curriculum and compensating our teachers appropriately, but it also has to do with the local control, home rule, respecting that. And so the two have to work together. I talked about partnership earlier. The two have to obviously work together. And so I wanted to make sure, I've just always believed, this may sound somewhat simplistic, but I've always believed the best way to control what happens inside a school is to control what gets inside the school. And I didn't want anyone, any school, to not have the means to control that. This is just one way to do that. There are others, and their schools are doing this, and I want to commend our schools and the leadership at our school districts and superintendents that have obviously has been on full display twice this year, where the proper protocol, those drills have worked, and it has saved lives. I just wanted to make sure that schools had the means to make sure through this way what gets in and out of certain entries and exits of their school, mostly entries obviously. I'm happy they took me up on it. These incidents may be a fresh reminder to schools that maybe we need to use them. However, again, the last two incidents that occurred, the most important thing about them, and I want to say thank you to folks who saw something or heard something and then mentioned, you know, there's an early warning sign here, and then this, you know, Jason Seaman in Noblesville, who actually part of the protocol was throw something at the individual. He did, and in all likelihood saved lives because of it. But this is a much bigger topic than just wands. This has got to do with responsible gun ownership. This has got to do with certainly the security of a school. This has got to do with having the proper resource officers on deck, on watch. This has got to do with funding, yes, but we're proving, the state of Indiana is proving that we're there and we're a partner toward this end.
Real quick, do you think those wands was it a waste of money? Or
No, absolutely not a waste of money. Absolutely. And it's not just a peace of mind having them. I don't want them to gather dust in a box. But parents have to know that their schools in all likelihood, plus 97%, have the means. Now there's also, entry points that schools have identified, and there are lockdowns. So the protocol is out there. We've got a portal. The Department of Homeland Security has created a portal of resources and best practices, et cetera, that schools can use. And there is alignment with the Department of Education, our administration, the Department of Homeland Security, the state police, mental health resources that are close by. There is not one solution to this issue that we face. There are multiple, and we're addressing them all.
Real quick, teacher pay, huge importance.
Yeah.
Why is it going to take so long to actually get those raises now?
Well, it won't take so long to get those raises in my budget, and we'll know more about the actual dollars and cents figure when the budget forecast is released, which is right around the corner, days away, December 14th, or excuse me, December 17th. And that'll help inform me on putting together the budget that I actually submit in January, which you'll see reflected the funding that can go toward pay increases. But long term, I don't want to just keep approaching this in a two-year increment. I want a structure that is sustainable, that's going to ensure that our teachers are leading in terms of compensation in our region, where we're competing to retain our talent and attract talent from other states. I want us to be a leader, not a laggard. To do that means we have to have some discussions with parents, with school corporations, with legislative leaders, all the above, to come to a consensus that here's how we move forward and Indiana becomes a leader in this area as well.
Real quick, do you think you have fixed our state's deteriorating infrastructure, or we still have work to do? Because our roads...
We're always going to have work to do, but look, when I get around the country, I can't tell you the number of my cohorts and or citizens that are businesses that are moving here because of our infrastructure. Number one, location. We're in the heart of the heartland, so obviously we occupy a high ground in this regard. Our state and local commitment to roads is fully funded for years to come, long term. We just added another $790 million to accelerate transformational regional projects that are going to save money, free up money later, but also save money because we're doing them faster. But then in terms of, you talk about folks that don't have service to the internet, living in internet darkness. We got about 400,000 folks who are unserved right now. That internet service could be just as important as any interstate or local road to them in terms of doing business, or telemedicine, or online education, or uploading and downloading crop management, information. So we are investing more than we ever have to further leverage our infrastructure high ground. But look, we're always going to have to maintain what we got. We're always going to have to be adapting to changing demographics, where people are moving, what those needs are. Fortunately, in the state of Indiana, we don't just prioritize them, we complete them.
Last two questions.
Yeah.
We didn't get Emmett on HQQ. I was bummed. Are you sad about that? And then, are you going to run for re-election? The last two questions.
First question is, I am proud, once again, of the city and the state and that partnership that put forward a proposal that put us in the top 20. It was a flawless endeavor on our part, and the final product that was put forward will pay dividends far beyond any one decision that any one company made. So it was a good investment, and it was a good exercise. Obviously, in a state like Indiana, our tech sector is booming. Right? We just nailed the single biggest Indiana Economic Development Corporation project in our state's history with emphasis. They're hiring 3,000 employees on the west side of Indianapolis at the old airport. Talk about a renaissance and a revitalization of an area, plus 3,000 employees, plus Wipro, plus Genesis, plus the next level tech fund, which is performing as advertised. One of the most vibrant funds in the Great Lakes area and indeed in the nation. And so this ecosystem continues to grow. In terms of your last question, if I'm going to seek re-election, we're in a position to do that. Haven't made that final decision. I want to keep as I have. I can walk and chew gum at the same time, but I want to keep focused on putting together the right agenda to continue to move Indiana forward, understanding what you said earlier, that there will always be work to do. And then the legislative session will be upon us, and literally January 3rd, it's jump ball, we're on, and after session we'll have time to make that final decision.
Okay.
But I'll have to check with my wife Ann Henry before I do so.
Okay, can you give us a flavor of what was in the Amazon package video?
It was a package that was appropriate to the scale of their potential investment, and it was performance-based, as all projects are.